And so it is. We go through many, many lives and through many, many different things. But we should never give up, because no matter how long it takes, and it's our choice, we will be free. Welcome everyone. Welcome Sri Ram and Denise. They'll be doing a concert afterwards today. When I first got here some 30 years ago, I've been saying 30 years ago for the last 5 years. I remember I heard the cliche, I guess, that Seattleites exchange with one another: if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes. And that's proven to be true. We have a tendency, there are two kinds of people, I should say, as I always do. There are two kinds of people, thems that don't want things to change and thems that do. And I remember in the middle years of my life, and I've lived most of my life in the Ananda communities, I remember coming up with my own silent mantra that went something like this: you just never know. Because the stuff we all have, but certainly I can only speak for myself, the stuff I've seen happen in people's lives, the changes they do, the goofy things they run off and do, shouldn't be cause, and it's not for me, cause for critique so much as humility, compassion. Because, as Sri Yukteswar put it so beautifully, being quoted in the autobiography, I forget how he put it actually now, but human behavior is never to be depended on until it reaches the heights of the divine. And so it is that, we go through so many incarnations, and when I'm done here, our friends here are going to sing one of my favorite songs, Through Many Lives. And so through many lives we have played so many roles. But this is cause for compassion. And although the reading mentioned poor old Judas, he really got it in the neck, both literally, he hung himself according to the canonical account, but he really got it in the neck in terms of his poor reputation. But I have a different story to tell you about Judas. Some of you know it, but don't give it away till I do. And the story's never over. It's the greatest story ever told. It's your story, it's my story. It's also Judas's story. We betray our soul moment to moment, day after day, actually, don't we? If through nothing else, our own forgetfulness. After all, remembrance, smriti, is the awakening to the truth that shall make us free. And so poor old Judas, Jesus accepted him as a disciple, right? Yogananda, in his writings on the commentaries on the Bible, said that Judas was a prophet. Now, I think he purposely used that word prophet. It's a little odd, actually, at least to my way of speaking. But he was trying to remind us that as one of the 12, Judas had to have been a great soul. How could he not have been a great soul? And yet, his betrayal, the so-called Book of Judas, for those of you who are thinking about that as I'm speaking, I know it exists, and in it, Judas in his voice says he was in the know, and the rest of the 11 were a bunch of schmucks. That's a technical yogic term, schmucks. Look it up in the Sanskrit dictionary. But I'm not going to go down that particular path. I just don't believe it anyway. Because he did get a pretty bad rap. And what he did was, as the story goes that we read here, the reading today, he did betray his master. Now, it wasn't like he set out and said, I'm going to betray this son of a gun. No, of course not. I love that quote from the Gita, which shows for us step by step how we descend into the hell of the subconscious, into the ignorance of our own karma, bit by bit. There's an article that Yogananda wrote, or maybe it was a lesson, I don't remember now suddenly, but I always loved the title. He said, "In what slums is your mind roaming?" And we've seen it in the great scandals of humanity down through the ages. It's nothing new, whether it's priests or politicians or movie moguls or what have you. We just don't know what lurks in the subconscious. You know, money, intoxicants, and sex, right? The three great delusions, as Paramahansa Yogananda and others have identified. And so, as I say, it's not a matter of critique, it's a matter of compassion. It's a matter of being calm and accepting, you see. Because the story of Judas is a story of victory. And let me explain what I mean by that. There was no victory in committing suicide, obviously. But you know, Yogananda taught that in his own lifetime, in the latter stages of the 19th century, first years of the 20th, he met Judas, who after many incarnations found his freedom. A lot more than I can say. He found his freedom with the grace of a great yogi, Ramakrishna Paramahansa. And so it is that whatever guilt he felt in throwing those silver coins back to the priests and in hanging himself out of his own guilt, he resurrected himself. He made the effort through many lifetimes. And that's our story. Now, Swamiji, our founder, Swami Kriyananda, tells another more modern, up-to-date, well, about more modern, after all, Judas apparently lived in recent times, but the story of one of Yogananda's boyhood friends, someone who later in life became named as Swami Dhirananda. Dhirananda, as a boy, I forget his boyhood name, Bakshi or something like that. Anyway, Bakshi was a friend of Yogananda. And when Yogananda entered the training of Swami Sri Yukteswar, old Bakshi was still hanging around. He had a couple of boyhood friends, and they did all sorts of cool things together and meditated and did lots of fun things. And so Yogananda kept trying to help his friend. And Sri Yukteswar, do you remember the story in the autobiography where Master, the only time he got away with chastising his own guru was because his guru said some bad things about him to his own father. And so Yogananda called Sri Yukteswar on the carpet, and Sri Yukteswar looked down very humbly and said it wouldn't happen again. Okay. The reason that happened was because Sri Yukteswar could see that this Bakshi fellow, the future Swami Dhirananda, would betray him. But Yogananda also knew at the same time that Bakshi was his disciple and that his role in relation to Bakshi was to free him. Now the story gets even deeper than that, but I don't have time to get into past lives right here, but it's actually quite fascinating. In any case, so in later years, and then before Yogananda came to America, he turned to Bakshi, his buddy, who was very intellectual, a bit pompous and so forth, but he turned to Bakshi to help him write what became his first book, The Science of Religion. And it outlined the path of his teachings for his entire life. And so he came to America and had it published here in America, The Science of Religion. But he didn't write it. It was his ideas. But the language and the writing was sort of intellectual, scholarly in a sense. In any case, it's still in print, I think, isn't it? Yeah. It's still in print. And Swami Kriyananda gave his own version of it because of its vibration just wasn't that of Yogananda, and the terms were just a little bit stilted. It wasn't really his voice. So Swamiji, it was Hope for a Better World, right?
No, God is for everyone.
God is for everyone, right. He rewrote it under a different title. And it was the basic precepts of Yogananda's teachings, and I recommend it to everyone. But in any case, so And I forget who it was in India in later years after Yogananda's passing. I think it was Tulsi Bose himself, one of his boyhood friends, who revealed that even as kids, as teenagers, Yogananda revealed to Tulsi that he knew Bakshi would betray him in later years. And so he knew this. And like the story of the scorpion and the saint at the riverside who kept taking the scorpion out of the river, and every time he did, he got bit, and somebody asked him, why do you keep getting bit? He says, well, it's the scorpion's nature to bite, and it's my nature to save. And so we go through this Leela with one another, these relationships that we have. And sometimes they're pretty weird, actually, and some, all this up and down and so forth. But if we can stand back from some of these, Master Yogananda said, I love that recording in his own voice about the guy he met on a train. Again, I'm not going to tell that story. You're going to have to find it yourself. We're all crazy. It's just that we're crazy in different ways. And we only can relate to people who share our craziness. And so I can't tell you how many times I found that to be true in my life. But anyway, so in later years, when Yogananda was out on his barnstorming campaigns throughout America, he came to Seattle at least twice, went to Alaska. He even visited Cheney, Washington. Now, what is in Cheney, Washington? Nothing, right? I mean, don't tell me you're from there. It's a podunk nothing. But like when Jesus went to Samaria to the woman at the well, he went there because of that one person, that one woman, a former disciple from past lives. He went to find her. I suspect Master went to Little Cheney because there was somebody there he needed to help. And so, I don't know how I got off on that exactly, but at my age, you're allowed to wander a little bit. So,
No, you're not.
I don't know what she said. I can never hear her. I don't know why that is. And so, after Yogananda was here a few years, he asked Bakshi, who was by then Swami Dhirananda, to come to America and help him. And so during his barnstorming days, this was what I was saying, he was traveling a lot, and having established his headquarters at Mount Washington in Los Angeles, he had Swami Dhirananda in charge, and he was actually pretty magnetic. I mean, a little bit pompous, as I said, and intellectual, but a lot of people like pompous, intellectual people. It's just very popular in our culture. And so he had more of a scientific mind, and therefore, in a sense, particularly in those days, a more of a Western mind, if you'll forgive my saying that. And so he was very popular. And we don't know really what happened, but at some point he just kind of lost it and went and found Yogananda back east somewhere and made him sign a promissory note for $8,000, which was a lot of money back in 1930s, I suppose. And then left him and later sued him for that money. And in the years that followed, every year Yogananda would send, and then Dhirananda, became a professor at the University of Michigan, I think, and in some field that I can't pronounce. It has something to do with the brain. And every year Yogananda would send him a box of mangoes. And every year Dhirananda, who had been his son in a past life, that's all I'm going to say, he would send that box of mangoes back. Yogananda said, that it is through this body, meaning through him, that his friend and disciple would find liberation. He never gave up. And that's really my point. Whether it be Judas, I don't know where Dhirananda is right now, but all of us, the point of that is to never give up. No matter what we go through, what craziness we express in our lives. And there's nothing anyone can do that somebody else hasn't already done. have been corresponding for some years with a kid in Walla Walla State Prison, murder 1 and murder 2. He's a great kid, but stuff happens, right? And he's paying a very high price for it, I can assure you. It's not a fun place to be in. And so it is. We go through many, many lives and through many, many different things. But we should never give up, because no matter how long it takes, and it's our choice how long it takes, but no matter how long it takes, we will be free. And on that note, I'd like to invite the two of you to sing Through Many Lives.
Drunk the cup of laughter, no man could tell the pleasures I have known. The stars in the endless sky, if one could count, come to billions, yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you, yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Through many lives I've drunk the cup of sorrow, no man could tell the bitter tears I've shed, the drops in the endless sea, if one could count, would come to billions, yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you, yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Through countless lives I sought your cup of sweetness, found other cups, yet thirsted evermore. The streams in the hills of time, all found their way into a desert. Every noon a bright fulfillment, ere many did sink to evening gloom. Every noon a bright fulfillment, ere many hours did sink to evening gloom. I long for you in summer and in winter, only for you my heart thirsts day and night. I've learned that the sweetest songs is ever heard were but your echo. Lord, at last, fill me completely, for nevermore I'll wander far from you. Lord, at last, fill me completely,